What's good people? L.A.R movement still moving. If you hear, if you come in, you catch this on a replay, thank you. If you can see by the title, they want a kingdom with no king. Shout out to Zoe Williams. I was listening to him today. Stephen Jackson, I saw his post about the, black men and bitter baby mama things. This is not necessarily what this is about, but it has some things to do with these things. Brian, what's happening? I was listening to Dr. Tia Son Johnson, of course. I was just, I was working today, but I can listen to YouTube while I'm working. And shout out to Dana. She had a show with Judge Joe Brown. What's up, honey? And Judge Joe Brown and Kevin Samuels. Shout out to Judge Joe Brown and shout out to Kevin Samuels. Shalom, what's happening? GG, Goshen, what's happening? And it's something else I'm missing. Clinton, what's happening? So I forgot what it was, but first things first. The title says she wants a. Oh hell! Stop it! They were talking about, of course, the Madam C.J. Walker movie, but it's somebody else. Damn it! Anyway, I thought about it in a different context of America. You know what I'm saying? America is a country who basically, in its inception, said we don't want a monarchy. We don't want a king. We want a kingdom, but we don't want a king. What's up, Tab? And Tab, what's happening? So, what I mean by that is this. How can I say this? The branches of government are set up: judicial, executive. Damn it, judicial, executive. I know I'm tired right now. Administrative. To be the checks and balances, so we don't have a king. And this is how this country was run because of they wanted to get away from Britain and France and this, that, and the third. But this country is the basis for everything that's going on in our society because this country, what's going on, Devin, is a kingdom with no king. So here's the first thing. To be a kingdom, you have to steal somebody else's kingdom. So you don't want to be a king. You want to have a kingdom, but you don't want to have a king, but you want to steal somebody else's kingdom. What does that mean? What that means is if you don't have a king, the enemy that you created does not actually have a designated target. When we think about, what's going on, Rock Fresh, when we think about racism, not just how it affects us as black people, how it affects other groups of people. We know it's coming from white people predominantly, and then other races trickle in and get in on it. But we don't have a specific head of that figure. It's a Voltron type of thing. But here's the irony about it. See, you could be a king in America during slavery if you own slaves. That's the closest to kings we had in servants, right? That was the closest. You can't really be a king in the military because you're working for a multitude of people who hold kingship positions but aren't kings. Lakers, what's happening? So, oh dang. Uh-oh. So, part of the reason why I'm getting into this is because what people aren't taking into consideration is when you have a king, this country is a hodgepodge of what happens when you don't have a king. What's up, True Teller? And what do I mean? A king creates an order and a structure. So if the structure is good and sound and just, the king gets the credit. But if there's a If the structure is corrupted and dysfunctional, the king gets the blame. What's going on, Faith? Oh, well, I appreciate that, Shug. But the king will get the blame. But what do you have in America? A kingdom with no king. So guess what's rampant in America and what has always been rampant in America? Corruption. And you have no face of corruption because there is no king. There's always go higher up, go higher up, go to the left, go to the right. It's this person, it's that person. It could have been, it's the bureaucracy of not knowing who to actually wring their neck. Why am I saying this? Because one of the duties of a king was if his kingdom got corrupted and he wasn't actually to blame, he had to flush out who did it, and he had to expose them and get rid of them and maybe even kill them. In this society, that's not an option. America is a kingdom with no king. It's actually using a kingdom to be its kingdom that's stolen. Yeah, thank you, Goshen. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, I'm prefacing this thing by saying a lot of different things. Some about the male-female relationship, but some outside of it that affects the male-female relationships. The emperor without clothes, that's worse. At least the emperor was an emperor. We have a bunch of people who feel like they're kings, who feel like they're royalty, but they have no title. They feel like they have the power of royalty with no actual consequence. They have immunity from the obligations of a king. Now, why am I saying what I'm saying? Because, like I said, it's about America. Poke Dog, what's happening? Tyrone, well, my bad. JD, man, my bad, fam, my bad. Dion, Devin, I hope, So, here's this issue that trickles into everything else. I thought about us as black men because I was listening to Dr. Tia Son Johnson talk about the Madam C.J. Walker thing. And, and I talked about it a little yesterday. Hey, fitness mom. And I thought about it in a different term. And I could be reaching, I don't know. But this is a Christian country, quote unquote Christian country. Jesus wasn't a Christian, God wasn't a Christian, but we're just going to use that. We follow the biblical principles. And one of the principles that people used to like using was God will make your enemies your footstool. Tyson, man. Oh, Tyson up in here? Careless, what's happening? Jamar, what's popping? God will make your enemies your footstool. And they talk about, the persecuted being exalted by God. What's up, James? And the meek shall inherit the earth, right? And normally the Bible in that essence speaks of the underdog story. The underdog, the person who's, what's going on, Miss Jazzy? The person who's been oppressed, the person who's been afflicted, the person who's been used, manipulated, the person who's been maligned, the person who's been subjugated. You know what I'm saying? The person who's quote unquote even been quote unquote dominated. That will be the person that will actually rise up, and they're the same enemies that treated them down will be their footstool. And I thought about that in a sense of us as black men and us as they want a kingdom with no king. Because when people say something about, you don't want to, when Barack Obama became the president, you remember white people was going, the blacks are taking over. They're going to do this and do that, And it was part of that biblical making enemies footstools, right? And then I thought about listening to thinking back about what sometimes the women were talking about submission, and I don't want to be I don't want to submit and be a slave. And I thought about it like, okay, you want a kingdom with no king, because that king operated like a king. He couldn't trust you, so he would have to expose you. He would have to get rid of you, or he would have to downright kill you. What's happening, Jewel? And as an enemy, you would have to be a footstool. So why you can't bend the knee and submit to this guy? Because if he becomes a king, he can't have you in his kingdom because what you did, with the things you did to him when he wasn't a king, i.e., the story of Joseph. I've brought it up before. Joseph had a love for his father. His brothers, his siblings hated him. His siblings sold him off into slavery. His siblings had him oppressed, have him used, beaten, whatever, everything, right? Joseph rose from a slave to being what? The second in command or something like that. And when his brothers saw him, his siblings were afraid that he would kill them. But Joseph loved his father, so he looked out for his father, even though it benefited his siblings. And those same siblings that sold him out were the same people that had to come and beg him for help. If the father was dead, in that story, Joseph would have never helped him. Just in my opinion. And I think about the Moses story, underdog story, Jesus story, underdog story, David's story, underdog story. But he's a little different. He was the underdog that got too big for his britches and had to get humble. That's what happened. And why am I saying the biblical part of it? Because nobody wants to be the underdog's footstool. What's up in Payback? Thank you, Janky. Thank you, honey. Nobody wants to be the underdog's footstool. You remember when they crucified Jesus? Oh, you supposed to be a king, huh? Ride him in on this donkey. Oh, you supposed to be a king, huh? Give him a crown of thorns. Oh, you supposed to be a king, huh? Like, all of this was hate because he was chosen and they weren't. Because his works made him chosen. God chose him. Kings are chosen, but I'm going to get to that later. When you see a king has been chosen and you built a kingdom, and the kingdom that you had, you don't want to have a king. What you want to do is what? Destroy the kings that have been chosen. Right? So what do I mean by this? When I think about these conversations, it's not the conversations that get me sometimes. What up, Derek? When Dana, Judge Joe Brown, and Kevin were talking, Dana did something. That normally happens. And she got heated and didn't listen to Kevin at times and just talked over. That normally happens. And then they started talking about, who is this? And they what's up, Great Brad Sharp? And I started thinking about something Son Johnson was saying that came into play in the early movies and something Zoe was talking about, and Jeff Brown and Corey Holcomb were talking about. I forgot the other brother in the show. I think Ray. And because it had to do with parenting. And what happened was, it dawned on me. What the men have been saying, and whether the women want to know this or act like they don't know it, I don't really care. At this point, I'm going to just state it. Is their attacks on black men have been preemptive. They haven't been reactionary. They've been preemptive. And the men have been like, look, you are attacking me preemptively. When men talked about Birth of a Nation, the movie, that was a preemptive strike on black men for white people to be, or white men to be on guard about black men. That was preemptive. Guys didn't even know what was going on. You know. Uh oh. So it was preemptive. So when we talk about how the families are raised to disrespect the men in the family, because when I think about the conscious community, they call themselves kings and queens, but we look, even the term, and of course I was listening to Kendra. Shout out to Kendra. That was the last person, and because Kendra said she don't like the term queen, you know, because queens, one of their jobs is to bend the knee to the king. She should be the first person to bend the knee to the king. And I thought about it like, we got a community of guys. What's up, Ebony? That want to be called. That if you call them king, you can call them king, but you won't bend the knee to them. So they're really not a king. You get what I'm saying? And we're in a country that's a kingdom with no king. So how do you treat a king? You don't know, because you weren't raised in a country to know how to treat a king. And I'm gonna get into the aspects of a king in a minute, but I gotta lay this down about the preemptiveness. So when we're talking about, thank you. That's what I'm talking about to a degree, Jewel. It's time to get. You want the kingdom, but you don't want a king. Thanks, truth teller. Yeah, I know, Tyrone. Everybody isn't a king. You get what I'm saying? Everybody isn't. But this ideology comes from somewhere. It comes from somewhere. Because when we talk about building a community and building a family, that is no different from building a kingdom. That is no different. It starts with a king and a queen, a man and a woman. Same thing, the biblical term. A man is the head, what I'm saying, of the family. Women, it goes man, woman, and child. That's how a kingdom is built. It's not to disrespect women. It's not to trash women, but that's how it's built. It's built that way for a reason, though. And people forget the reason. But getting back to the preemptive strikes. What's up, Patrick? Right, man. What's happening? What's happening, fam? Okay. Well, I'll put that up there. Oh, damn it. I hate when that happens. Appreciate it, Tyrone. So this is what goes on. This is what goes on, in my opinion. We're teaching the boys, because the reason I say shout out to Stephen Jackson when he was talking about don't have kids by multiple women like he did. It was a mistake. Don't get with one woman and have children with her, right? Because of all of the pain it caused. And I thought about it because he says, when women are bitter, this, that, and the third, they act certain ways. And it came across my mind when we're talking about how children are raised. They're raised preemptively to hate men. Preemptively. The idea of, boy, don't you just like your daddy. Don't be like these men out here. That we don't remember boys don't remember being told to be like your daddy. Be like these men over here. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't the hey, what's happening? What's happening, fam? Be like these men over here. It was preemptive to say, don't be like these men. We were taught too often that men were a negative thing. And as a boy, you're gonna grow to be a man. But if you grow up to be a man, grow up to be a positive man, because these men are negative. We didn't even know these men. We didn't even know their stories. We didn't even know how they dealt with people. We just knew for some odd reason that these men were bad because they were men. Men gonna do what men do. We don't know. I don't understand what you're talking about right now. Because it wasn't the story of men never told both sides of the story. He never told it. So, let him burn. That's why it's oh, but Um, once we got to that part, when we teach the little girls, these men are no good, these men are this, men are like this, men are like that. Men aren't something to be respected. Men aren't something to be revered. Men are something to be an. You got to watch these men. You know, men are gonna hold you down and hold you back, and this, that, and third. So when women see, because Dr. Tia Son Johnson was actually talking about the Madam C.J. Walker thing, and when she got cheated on by the husband in the movie, and she quote unquote threw the husband out in the movie, she felt disrespected. There's just too much disrespect. But and I guess from a female point of view, it was her right to put that man out because he cheated on her. But she preemptively disrespected him on multiple occasions in that same storyline prior to that. So those strikes were unwarranted. So the movie could have changed quite early if he'd have said, you know what, you disrespectful. You crossed me at different points. You treated me like trash. You emasculated me in front of people. You talked down to me in front of my family, in front of your friends, in front of strangers. I'm done with you. I'm kicking you out. Forget your dream. Then it would have been a much different movie. You get what I'm saying? No, and it gets underlined. Tell them good vibes, AM. So I hope I put it up there. Yeah. So young geezer, what's happening? Peasy, what's happening? So thinking about it when I was listening to Dana talk, and I started thinking about when I was talking yesterday about the situation Kevin Samuels brought up that we just can't communicate. And one of the reasons we can't communicate is because we're getting preemptively disrespected. Preemptively, before we talk, we're getting disrespected. When we talk, we're getting disrespected. We're not even finishing sentences, and we're getting disrespected. We can't ask a question, and we're being disrespected. And then I thought about it, said, okay, but you want a king. You want a king, or you want a kingdom, but no king. Interesting. So what do I mean by a king? What I meant was, what is a king actually? In America's term, a king is a Renaissance man. See, when we think of a king, we think of somebody who's just sitting on a throne running things. I'm sorry, young geezer. We're thinking of a man who just sits on the throne. You know, he's the man. But we don't think about what a king actually is. A king is a Renaissance man. He is not the smartest guy, but he's one of the smart guys. He's not the strongest fighters, but he's one of the strongest fighters. He's not the most artistic or thinker, but he's one of the artistic thinkers. He's not one of the he's not the best mechanic, but he's one of the best mechanic. He may be the best at something, but he's an overall he's overall excellent at multiple things. And he's had his hands in things from the top of society to the bottom of society, or rather the bottom of society to the top of society. He knows how to operate in every aspect of society. Why is that important? Because a king is actually a developer. You get what I'm saying? A king is a developer. A king can, this is the agricultural part of our kingdom. This is the business part of our kingdom. This is the military part of our kingdom. This is the social part of our kingdom. You know, this is the financial part of our kingdom. You know, like the visionary of that part is a Renaissance man, a man who can see things that aren't there and knows how to put things in place that aren't there and knows how to affect the people around them. This is what a Renaissance man does. This is why a Renaissance man is well versed in multiple things that are not even in the same genre, in the same field. Okay. Thank you. Order. Yeah, he's a strategist. He's a problem solver. He figures out problems that don't even get there. Right. He knows how to bring about stability to a society. But we are enamored with Renaissance men in America, but we don't actually want Renaissance men to be in our presence. We don't want Renaissance men in our presence in an American society. Idris, my bad, what's happening? Charles, my bad, what's going on? King Dom used to. But he doesn't want to. Third War, what's popping? My bad. So, because if you get around a Renaissance man, a lot of people stereotypically get insecure. He's too well versed. And something Judge Joe Brown was talking about on Dana's panel was a woman he knows that's not black says she dates black men because if a black man and a white man are in the same at the same socio-economic level, then she knows he had to do way more to get there than the white counterpart. So she views him as a more impressive man. And this is what I mean by Renaissance men. Renaissance men or kingly men are impressive men. And the last thing a lot of people want to do is be around an impressive man. Because you might, how can I say this, get insecure because it exposes how things that you aren't impressive in. And he's not doing it to you purposely. He's just being himself. He's just being him. Oh, that ain't gonna, payback, that ain't a good, that ain't gonna happen that well. I can answer that right there. But this Renaissance man thing is where everything goes left. Killmonger, what's popping? So yeah, he's an thank you. To be exceptional in American society should make you a king, but there are no kings in American society. This is why, when we talk about especially black men, when it comes to business, what's up, Keep It Techie? When it comes to business, one of the underlying things about American business, which you can see in the movie The Banker, is when black people catch on to business tactics, you change the rules. Because I don't think people realize, the Banker movie was started in the 50s. It ended in the 60s, but we've only, the 60s was 60 years ago, but really we haven't been allowed to capital, quote unquote, in America like that. Like everybody else, it's probably been what, 30, 40 years? Because to enforce all of those laws, they were on the books since the 60s, but they really didn't get enforced to the 80s. But that's a whole nother story. But getting back to, I've been good, John. I hope you've been well, fam. Say what? What's popping? So here's where we going. Yeah, that's what I spoke of earlier, Derek. That's what I spoke of earlier. But I'm going to get to that too a little bit later. But what do people want? You want a king with no kingdom. So what do you want? A lot of people want an advisor. A lot of people want guys to build kingdoms and them to be the advisor to the kingdom that they built, which becomes the problem. Because the way American society is set up, this is what the divorce law and guys' apprehension about commitment as far as marriage and relationship comes to. You want this guy to go out and be a quote unquote protector and a provider, which is in some essence the roles of a king, right? But you want him to protect and to provide. And if you don't like him anymore, you want to run off with the kingdom. And if the kingdom, and if you run off with the kingdom and it's not working for you, you want to be able to find another, either use that man if you didn't burn the bridge completely, or find another man to advise you how to run a kingdom. And this is what guys are stepping away from. Guys are stepping away from being an advisor to a kingdom without a king. Because you're not going to understand how to run a kingdom because you're not a king. So you want to sit on the throne as a king, but you don't want to actually wear the crown, because the responsibility comes in the crown. Not the throne, not really. The throne is stagnant. The crown moves around with the king. So you want the kingdom, but you want an advisor. You want a consigliere. Thank you, Patrick. That's a good way to put it. Sometimes, well, women feel like they, getting better by the day. Good. I'm glad you're good, Gigi. I am glad you're good. You say sometimes a woman runs what better? The kingdom? See, that's the thing. This is why I said this is the fallacy about running the kingdom that women don't understand. And I might be wrong, I'm interpreting what you're saying wrong, but women aren't hands-on. It's not women's nature. And what I mean by that is, it's hard to run a kingdom when you actually have never been hands-on about the aspects of the kingdom. What I'm saying is, if you had a farm, just because you bought a tractor and a barn, if you've never actually planted the crops before, and you've actually never watered the crops before, you've never actually fought off the gophers or the rabbits or the insects, then you're not actually hands-on to the farm. The crop just ain't gonna grow. What? Uh-oh. So you need an advisor. Oh, it ends bad, fam. It ends bad. That's what it happens. So, Kirk, what's happening? So the practicality, as Patrick said, the practicality of being hands-on is what women don't understand. That's not what women want to do. You don't want to put your blood in the dirt. You don't want to put your sweat in the dirt. Kings still have to do that. You get what I'm saying? So you can, how can I say, you can manage a kingdom for a long time. But if you actually aren't hands-on, then you don't see where everybody's coming. You don't see everybody's intentions. This is this is why they use the Marie Antoinette stereotype, whether it's true or false, because she was out of touch with reality of the people because she wasn't a hands-on person. Queens aren't hands-on people. They just aren't. That's the thing. See, it's different. Like I tell people, like I tell some of my coworkers, if you hunt deer with a rifle, you consider yourself a hunter, but you're not on the same level as a man hunting a deer with a bow and arrow, or somebody who's hunting a wolf with a knife. Those are three different things. You're not the same. You're not even in the same league. Because it's one thing to hunt something that isn't a predator. It's another thing to hunt something that is. And kings have to hunt predators. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing. But to have an advisor, guys are opting out of being an advisor. Women are. No, I'm not saying anything, Jill. I'm not saying something's wrong with women not women aren't. I'm not saying anything's wrong because women aren't tangible. I'm saying kingdoms are tangible. That this is the fallacy. This is where women get kingdoms wrong. Kingdoms aren't abstract; they're tangible things. You get what I'm saying? So it's difficult to run something, to actually run a kingdom that's tangible when you aren't really built to be tangible like that or hands-on like that. That's what I'm saying. Um, Now getting back to what I was talking about earlier. Oh, I didn't think you was, Jewel. I'm just explaining it. That's all. Like, that's kind of dumb shit I do. Yeah, because that's look. Wait, like I know. That's you got to that. That's some shit you only do if you have to do it. You don't just go out. Let me go hunt a wolf with a knife. It's not a good idea because the motherfucker is not by himself in the first place. But Kirk Washington. Hold on, Kirk. All due respect, the mother on earth. And also we had to take. Okay, Kirk. Now I'm not a person who just trash people, but you too old to not spell right. But forget that part. The problem with your statement is this is being a kingdom with no king. It's a female's job to nurture, not a man. It's not a king's job to nurture. That's a queen's job still. That's the issue. This is what happens when you want a kingdom with no king. You want a king to be a queen. You want a man to come along and be a woman. If that's where, just because you're a mother, like when we make these statements, the black queen is the mother of the earth. I hate to break the news to you. It's disrespectful, because just you act like the black man isn't the father of the earth. This is what happens when you put somebody so high up on a pedestal that we take out the actual practicality of life. The mother of the earth is one thing. The father of the earth is another thing. What you're telling me is that she's the mother of the earth, and the black man is what? What is he? He the stepdaddy? He just the dude that came along. He dropped off some royal child support and left. He's the abandoner of the earth. Like, what are we talking about here? And Faith would tell you that. Faith ain't gonna give you nothing, no. Faith ain't gonna do nothing to you. Faith ain't gonna do nothing to you. Because if you sit there nurturing Faith all day long while she going to work, she ain't gonna. Tell you what, she ain't gonna like all that nurturing after a while. You're like, really, you just gonna nurture me every day? You see me out here sweating. I ain't got no more edges, Kurt. No more edges. But I'm nurturing you, Queen. Queen my ass. Okay, I quit. So this is where it goes. Yeah, I play. I play too much. But this is where it goes into the submission part. What I was trying to say earlier about when you don't have a kingdom, when you don't have kings, but you want a kingdom, you have no reason to submit to a kingly figure because there ain't no kings here. So who are you submitting to? I don't need to submit to nobody, because if you a queen, ain't no kings, right? Just advisors. Kurt, this is now this is why okay. What else is the black man? This is This is the question. What else is the black man? Because I know some types of guys who would say black men are protectors because they don't want to do other things. They just want to sit around and say they protect. But here's the problem with people who quote unquote say they protectors predominantly. With they don't protect shit. You know, they don't protect shit. All right, all right. You know what? Faith and Kirk need to hook up. That she been looking for a man like you, protect her and nurture her, Kirk. I'm not gonna hate on it. Protect her and nurture her. You know what I'm saying? Rub her left bunion. There you go. Get together. We promote black love here. We promote black love. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. Be kind. What's popping? You know, Miles, what's happening? Strong and courageous. A workhorse. See, that's the thing. You know, we are viewed as a workhorse. That's what we actually viewed as. A workhorse. That's not human. So when you're viewed as a workhorse, you're a tool. So a kingdom needs no tools. And it's kind of like chess, right? Well, people want to assume that everybody protects the king, even the queen, right? And the same thing that goes along with submission. Like when we talked about lions, you hear that lions and hyenas come up recently. Here's the thing about lions, male lions, because we like to use that Darwinism, survival of the fittest type thing. We kept talking about lions to the point that women thought the female lion does all the hunting and she feeds the family. And it never dawned on women that male lions are nocturnal. Male lions the male lions just sleep all day. They're nocturnal. The male lion is actually a protector and a provider. He protects everybody so they can sleep and make it to the next day. And then when he gets up in the daytime, he also hunts with them. And then when they go to sleep, he's fighting in the middle of the night or patrolling in the middle of the night. In the middle of the night. So you're not going to submit to that. My bad, fam. you know, you know, it's cynical. You talking about that? I remember they had a going in the submission part. I remember they had what is that? What is it? A Survivor show, the men versus the women. And I remember there's an older woman who was very much so logical, very much so practical. I ain't gonna say she lied. She was very practical. She was telling the women what the women needed to do. And the guys, when the guys got together, they had to build a camp. And one woman was trying to tell the women what they needed to do, and they wouldn't listen. So they walked around for hours and hours and hours, basically doing nothing, frolicking in the jungle. Then it rained. And all of the women who felt like in the beginning that I could do this, I could survive in the jungle without men. All of the women had to go back to the men's camp. And they had to quote unquote submit to be part of the men's camp. And the older woman was kind of thrown off, but she upset at the fact that y'all said y'all could do this, but y'all wouldn't put in the work. Y'all just sat here playing. Y'all really didn't want to survive on your own. You just didn't want to do it. But when they realized we needed to survive, I got to submit. Now, why I bring in submission in this, like I was talking earlier with the biblical part, is because If you're preemptive, if you're taught to disrespect somebody from an early age, having to bend the knee or submit to them, or to follow, or to take their instruction, or to actually learn from them or be taught by them, can be extremely difficult because you think that they're beneath you. Submission and obedience is hurtful to your soul because you were taught this workhorse could never be on my level. Going back to what I meant biblical about making your enemies your footstool. When you preemptively see men as the enemy, if he rises to a certain position, now you biblically start thinking, well, God couldn't have put this person above me to be, and I'm their footstool. No. I'm the one, I'm going to rise up against them eventually because they're oppressing me. Unfortunately, the problem was you didn't take in consideration that you have been preemptively striking this person. So you are actually his enemy. His enemy. Thanks, Skip. Well, as I like to say, skill. You know, so that's a problem. Yeah, no master above his teacher. And that's the problem. I'm not, you have to have some type of humility. And what we're teaching is we're teaching women and children to have no humility when dealing with men. So because we don't have a kingdom, ain't no king, I'm the queen, you're just my advisor. Oh, really? Well, okay. I'm not going to be an advisor no more. Let you run it on your own. You get what I'm saying? That's where it comes. You know, Kirk, this is the problem with stuff that you say right now. Trace back to our ancestors. Nick, what exactly did these queens do? And out of all the countries in Africa, out of all the kingdoms in Africa, and this is the funny part about it, Africa in itself was unique because what? The men and women worked together. They were quote unquote on the same field, but they had two different responsibilities. The queens in Africa did not have the same responsibilities of the kings in Africa. They didn't. They didn't. So when you think about, a few tribes of women that were actual warriors, do you understand that there was maybe like 2 or 3 tribes in Africa like that? The vast majority of them wasn't. When you watch the movie 300, the guys with the teeth that was sharpened, that in the first movie 300, that was actually from an African tribe. Do you think those was African women that was doing that? No, they weren't. When you think of the Zulus and the Mandingos, are you thinking women doing that? No. When you're thinking of the pharaohs in Egypt, those were the kings of Egypt. See, this is where I love our people and I love our women, but I don't like this fantasy stuff. This fantasy stuff is stupid. For all these people, all quote unquote black people who are so educated, we don't know shit about black history or African history. We just talking some fantasy shit. This nigga retarded. You retarded. You retarded. You're retarded now. This is the metaphysical dumb shit that I'm talking about. Don't comment no more after that, fam. The queens were able to have kids without us men, though. Thank you for saying that stupid shit. Thank you. I appreciate you. You know what? Hotep, my nigga. Hotep. Stupid ass shit right there. What's up, Jermaine? My bad, fam. I'm gonna keep that up there. Women were having babies without men. Okay. Name the baby that was had. Name the children by women who didn't have no man. Just name it. Just name it. Just give me one. Just give me one kid. One kid ever on the face that was born without any male involved. And please don't say marrying God, because God is a male figure. that like metaphysical ass stupid shit. Jesus, but isn't God male? Oh, damn. Ain't that a bitch? Didn't God also tell the angels stop having sex with the humans? Uh-oh. That's immaculate conceptions wasn't immaculate. You know? She had to get impregnated by God. I'm just saying. This is like we try to act like, oh my God, we try to act like this is not reality. We just gonna do it. Anyway. So once again, I gotta throw this monkey wrench in here because the submission is also a problem, but the money is a bigger problem. You know, the money is the problem because here's where we go. When you want a kingdom with no king, you want advisors, but you don't want, but you want the money, but you don't know what to do with the money. And it's not just a female-centered thing, really. You know, because one of the things that Stephen Jackson was talking about, and one of the things that they were talking about on Mansions was the fact that, you know, in the parenting dynamic, you're seeing a bunch of fathers taking over and righting the ship with their children, and you're seeing mothers interfere with the straightening out of the children who were taught bad behaviors. So now you want a kingdom with no king, but these, you know, no, Faith, I'm sorry for picking on your boo. You know what? Protect your man, protect the black man, Faith, protect your man. He is gonna nurture you. He is gonna love you. Oh yes, he will, Faith. Yes, he will, girl. Yes, he's gonna put his tongue all on your areolas in the nicest way. Okay, I'm gonna stop messing with you. You know, yeah, I saw the Stephen Jackson thing today. I saw it, Devin. You know, like, but when you know, now we're teaching these children that they only have to quote unquote listen to the queen. Now, when the queen gives you bad advice, it's the king's fault. But there is no king, remember? Because you didn't want to. Now the kids, the kids have an issue because you see kids having a situation where it hurts their pride to go back to their daddy and quote unquote bend the knee. It hurts their pride to go back to their dad and say, I need you. I'm going to humble myself and submit to my father. You know, look, I'm your father. No, no, no. Ain't that a bitch? You know, look in your heart, look. No, no. You gave me my daddy dog. Like, that's where we going right now. That's what we do. That's what we going with. So we're in this thing. Uh-oh. So now we're in this situation where, well, I'm not messing with your man now. Somebody else messing with your man. Now you got to, that's between y'all. But now we have a community where we're playing around with this idea that at the end of the day, we can have this functional kingdom with no king. But we're going to raise these girls to be queens and raise these boys to be servants and advisors and workhorses to the kingdom. Here's the unfortunate problem, though. The boys ain't really going to sign up for that. There's going to come a point where the boys say, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm not giving you a crown with no responsibilities. And I'm not giving you a crown with no duties. And I'm not giving you a crown with no responsibility, not responsibility, but I'm not giving you a crown with no weight. You know, because a king can actually be dethroned if they're not doing right by the kingdom. So I'm not going to give you a crown and a throne and immunity and diplomatic immunity. That's what I was going to say. Okay. So now we playing around. You know, this is where, misguided. Thank you. When we're in this situation right now where you want a kingdom with no kings, what direction do you think the kingdom is going to go in? Because look at America. We always say, this country is crumbling, and this is the aspect of having a king with no kingdom. Because what does America do? You inherit another guy's plan from 4 or 8 years ago, and you take credit for all the positive things that have trickled down to you, and you blame him for all the negative things that have trickled down to you, and you get to be on the quote-unquote throne of the presidency. On one hand, saying, I did this, and on the other hand, saying, he did this. And then when you leave, now somebody is taking credit for your work, and somebody is blaming you for all of your mistakes. So ultimately, the buck never stops at anybody. So nobody ever actually can point the finger to where did this start and who ended it. Where did this positive thing start and who either made it better or made it worse? Where did this negative thing start and who made it better or who made it worse? When you have a kingdom with no king, you don't know. We can't tell where everything happens. It's the same thing with the Ronald Reagan idea of trickle-down economics. This is the part of the irony of corruption and the falsehood of benevolence of a kingdom with no kings. You expected rich people who are uber rich to make sure everybody eats. You thought they was gonna make sure everybody eats like a kingdom. You thought all these rich people would be kings, and this would be their kingdoms, and all the money and the riches and the wealth and the order and the structure would trickle down. But you're not seeing that, are you? What you're seeing is business is what? Poaching on society. Business is poaching on society. So to make money in America, for the most part, is not a meritocracy. You have to figure out a way. There's a economy that's a meritocracy in America, but the vast majority of the economy is how to get $1 out of your pocket from poaching on you or destroying something, so you have to go to somebody else to pay for the fix. For all the people who are at home or who are at the hospital with the coronavirus, this is a virus that came from China, but they're gonna charge you in America to fix it. If you got health insurance, you're not gonna get as big a bill as you would if you don't have health insurance. But here's the problem. Here's the problem with all of this that I'm going on is now we're looking at the dynamic of us as individuals. when we're communicating with each other and dealing with each other, as men are getting treated like servants, advisors, subjects, and guys are checking out of being a subject or a servant, or an advisor. Because if I gotta advise, I need to be the king, because you don't know what you're doing. If I gotta keep coming back and fixing your kingdom, I need to be the king. If you keep having problems with your kingdom, then I might as well just take over and be the king. If you need me to come and do a job in your kingdom over and over and over again in multiple different aspects of your kingdom, I need to be the king, because I know what I'm doing all the way across the board. You keep finding problems that you can't fix. And when you're dealing with somebody who keeps running into problems that they can't fix, they're not worth the throne or the crown. And just because you're talking loud, and just somebody told you this, that, and the third, that you're in this position, it means a hill of beans. Why am I saying what I'm saying? When we think about kids of royalty and we think about rich kids, the further they are away from the birth of that kingdom, a lot of times the less equipped they are to actually run it. They're accustomed to the lifestyle of the kingdom. They don't understand. They're out of touch with the reality of the people. They live in opulence. They don't know what it's like to be destitute. They don't know what it's like to be homeless. They don't know what it's like to be struggling. They don't know what it's like to be poor. They don't know what it's like to be skilled, to work from nothing to something. They started at the top, and they're so privileged that they don't know what it's like not being at the top. And they don't realize the vast majority of their kingdom, except for them, knows what it's like to not be at the top. You have to relate to everybody who are on common ground, not in opulence. And you see, kids get older and say they inherit a business, and the board knows how to do everything. They don't. They're just there. Because they've been so accustomed to opulence, the work has really never been a part of their life. The work is beneath them. The developing is beneath them. The vision is beneath them. The growth is beneath them. The ability to work with other people is beneath them. They can't work with people. They only think people should work for them. Same thing that happens when you see royal people. That's why they have to send people like to the military and boarding school and this, that, and the third, because they got to humble these people. These are actually the people who make the kingdom function, not you. You got to know how to operate with these people, because if you can't work with these people, there will be no more kingdom. If you can't get the trust and respect of these people, there will be no kingdom. This is why you have to become, if you're raised in opulence and you're raised in the upper class, you have to become a Renaissance man. That's what all the tutelage is for. That's why they send you to the best schools and they expose you to all of these different things, because now you have to become a Renaissance man. We have to put you in all of these adverse situations. We got to pay for this stuff, because if you don't get this Renaissance education, you'll be so out of place with society that the actual people who are not kings in his kingdoms will be able to take you over, because they can take the people because you don't have their respect. They can also take the kingdom from you because you're not competent. And more importantly, how can I say this? They can take your legacy because you've destroyed it. So when you have a community that wants a kingdom with no king, it's destined for failure. It's destined for failure. So that's what we're doing. I'm done. I've been on here for an hour. I thank y'all for rocking with me. Um, this is where I end it, and I go get some cookies. Faith, get your man. Hey, CEO, man. Fabian been looking for your ass forever and a day. Jesus Christ. So just so you know, say hello to Fabian when you see Fabian in the chat. It's like anonymous 88 or anonymous 68. So I'm just saying. So all y'all take care. Have a great evening. Kirk, we're gonna get your spell check on your stuff though, fam. You just got that. You got that jail spelling player. School is out of session. Got no reason to be spelling like that. Peace.